thinking on some questions that I think everyone sort of is mulling over at some point in their life. So this is one that I'm actually just really curious about. Money talk. What's the first thing that you got paid to do?
What you mean in my life?
Yeah, like work. What was that first job? What was that first paycheck? Where did that come?
Oh,
Like what?
so okay, first time making money ever was just selling blow pops at school, right? I was like a little entrepreneur as a kid. I would buy the blow pops at Walgreens and I would sell them at school. But real tradition, like a paycheck, my first job was at Walgreens. So I was a cashier and I was, I worked there. I worked holidays, I worked nights. I remember working through Christmas, through New Year's, you name it. It was like, I put the time in.
That's amazing. I will share that first job. We'll go the youthful entrepreneurial route because I like that. Do you mechanical pencils? You know, you have that little
Yeah.
clip like break off. I remember breaking them off of all of my mechanical pencils, and you can like stick them between your finger and make like a skateboard, and like guide them on the edges of the table. And I sold those for 25 cents.
That's
Now,
hilarious. I would have totally bought
I was like entrepreneur or con artist. There's like somewhere in between. But actual paycheck was I worked at a toy store called Binky's Toyland, where I would dress up as Elmo, Dora, SpongeBob, and go to birthday parties for kids at 15 years old. So
yeah, we're like, you're not allowed to take the head off no matter what.
I know we were all hustling. We were all hustling. Okay. Did you talk about money at the dinner table growing up? Is that something that was a conversation for you?
Honestly, and I think this is going to be very common with a lot of immigrant families. The only time that money came up was to tell us that we don't got it. We don't have it. Don't ask me for anything extra. If there was a field trip or something like a club or something extra that wasn't, school supplies, school lunch, anything that was mandatory. The answer was we don't have it. And so growing up with that kind of scarcity is part of like why I think my money journey has progressed the way it has, meaning that it took me so long to invest. It took me so long to let go of traditional money rules in my head about, oh, you have to buy property, you have to save and hoard money in a savings account, all because I grew up with a lot of scarcity around me, right? So to let money go and go into the stock market and allow it to grow and for me to like invest in my business and things like that, you have to do a lot of healing around money trauma in order to make these steps.
Yeah, and I totally get that. Money was not a conversation at our dinner table unless, like you said, it was unfortunately we don't got it, or it was seeing money stretched as far as the dollar can possibly go in some magical, miraculous way to cover expenses. But you're right. It was always, saving without intention, or, it was just needing to always have more money, but then never really knowing what to do with it, because to have money meant security.
Yep.
Not really knowing what that meant, because security was the day to day. It wasn't the 15, 20, 25, 30 years from now.
No, especially with, I can't speak to all Latino cultures, but in the Brazilian culture, we're very live in the now, survive, get through it. I came from very poor background. I have families who live in like shanty towns in Brazil, which are called favelas. So it's all about the survival, right? So my parents had that like baked into them, and that's how we were raised as well. So that's something that we have to overcome. If we're, that's what they want for us, right? That's why they brought us here. They wanted us to thrive. And now we just have to do the psychological work behind it.
And on that note, I think this next question is interesting. What was your biggest challenge with money? What was that biggest psychological hurdle to break?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I said, like I have a fear of letting money go. So I'm either spending frivolously and not thinking about it at all, or I'm overthinking it and hoarding it. So it's a very like two extremes, right? So when I first got my real job, my real career started as an attorney, that was the most amount of money I had ever made in my life. And so I got caught up in the New York City lifestyle. I was going out, I was spending a lot of money. I signed up for that Equinox membership. I'm like, I had no business being there. And so I was ignoring, like my student loans, So that was like a period of my life. And then when I shifted to another period where I started making more money, I started hoarding money then. I wasn't spending as much. I was hoarding. I was saving. I didn't understand investing. I thought that math scared me. So I equated math to being bad at money. And so I didn't touch it. And so those were like the two biggest struggles that I had. I would say in my 20s was the spending, and in my 30s, it was the hoarding.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder then if from that experience that might then have influenced your next answer, which is what's your biggest money rule? What is that? What is that piece of advice that you think is the most essential?
Yeah, you're probably not going to like my response, but my money rule is that there's no such thing as a money rule. And when people start imposing money rules on people, that like makes my skin itch. I'm like, please don't do that. Money is so personal. It's so much more than mathematics. It's so much more than numbers. We know it has to do with human psychology, human behavior. There's so much emotion tied to it. There's so much family history tied to it. And so to even start imposing rules on people is so toxic. So everything that I post, everything that I share on my page, I constantly tell my audience, I'm like, these are guidelines. These are ideas. I'm trying to give you guys options, right? The idea here is like, know the menu of options that are out there for you and apply it to your life as you see fit. At the minute that somebody starts telling you, hey, you can only pay debt off this way, you can only invest this way, you can only save money this way, you should run the other way as fast as humanly possible, because there is no one set way, right? And that's when you get stuck with these personal finance gurus that are super toxic and start shaming people into these behaviors. And that's what I'm trying to like dismantle and get away from.